Hey, we are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 6, 2 of 1. We are going to do a review of the episode and then do a spoiler breakdown of the episode starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Solo Show. I am Nathan.
I'm Colin.
I'm David.
And I'm Condra.
Well, the spoiler-free logline for this episode is, with the help of Tallinn, Picard and the crew infiltrate a gala on the eve of a joint space mission to protect one of the astronauts they believe to be integral to the restoration of the timeline, Renee Picard. Kore makes a startling discovery about her father's work. So, Colin, what did you think of this episode? Episode 6 now that we're on.
Yeah, episode 6. I just think that this episode, it was decent. It wasn't great, I would say. It wasn't like such a big bang in the beginning like with episode 1 and probably even 2. It was definitely much more drawn out, stretched out. And I think that they could have just narrowed it a little bit and get it done within like a half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, but they kind of stretched it out. And then that's how I kind of felt throughout, because there was some story there. And then there was a subplot that was there that you mentioned in the beginning in the intro. So I don't know. I mean, I just felt it was totally stretched out, okay-ish, but they could have just kind of moved along the story a little bit more instead of just having it extended. And then they did some really weird thing as well, which we can get to in the spoiler review about in terms of the kind of like in terms of the chronology of the episode itself. So overall solid, but yeah, it could have been shortened. It could have been shortened, I would say.
Okay. David, what'd you think?
I agree with Colin. This is more like a stretched out, like an extended version to the previous episode from last week. But I would say that it sheds light about a few more things, like what happened to some of the characters, especially Jurati, and also a few. But there were a few things that they put in there, like they brought back the subplot of one character, another subplot, and another thing of another character too, that kind of distract a little bit, but doesn't lose focus on the whole episode. So I give Jonathan Frakes, who was the director of this episode, the credit on that. So there were a couple things that were unexpected in there, which we'll get to it later on, but it gives more insight about the whole thing, and it gives more of a hint of the main thing that, like I said by the previous episode, saying which one is the main point that caused the whole timeline to go whack. And I think this episode gave a bigger hint of where and everything. But all in all, I like this episode. Even though, as we were calling, it should have been narrowed down a little bit and get straight to the point for the next part.
Okay. Conjure, what'd you think?
Yeah, I liked the episode. I liked that the cast looks so gorgeous in this episode, right? They're out of their like really those really stark and serious uniforms of the alternate timeline, and everybody looks fabulous. It also answered a question you had last week, where they ended this wondering if you were going to see the doctor that Rios ran into again. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to wait as long as we thought for that to be a relevant meeting, I guess. I thought it was a solid episode. And like David said, you're seeing, I think coming to understand some of the characters a little bit better, and their roles are starting to take shape and their histories are starting to take shape. So it wasn't like amazing, like on the edge of your seat drama, but I think they're sort of deepening and enriching the story.
Okay. I think that a lot of the last couple of episodes have been sort of middle of the road for me, and because of that, I'm going to start trying to give ratings. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that for everything that I do going forward, but to give a sense of where my thinking is. So, like, there were some really bright spots in this episode that I liked. There's particularly a speech that Picard gives that's probably one of the best speeches that he's not. I don't know if it's one of the best speeches he's given in all of his appearances in TNG, but I think it might be the best that he's given in this show. So there's like really high points like that. They do something really interesting with Jurati in this episode, which was really cool. But I feel like the other characters are sort of just milling around and they have no purpose. And I don't understand. They kind of set up this heist plot in the previous episode, and they don't take advantage of that. I don't know if they didn't want to do that again, because they sort of did that last season when they went into the casino and Picard was putting on a terrible French accent. Maybe they didn't want to do that beat again, like a heist thing, but like, why bring them at all? Why didn't they just stay on the ship? So I mean, there were just a bunch of people just milling around and talking. They were supposed to be a mission and a plan, and no one actually executed any plan. It was basically just watch the subject. The stuff with Corey was interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. We can talk that through when we actually get into the spoiler part of this the conversation, the breakdown. The startling discovery that she makes about her father's work. I'm not sure what they're trying to communicate there. If they're trying to communicate one thing, I guess that's okay. It doesn't undercut what they did last week too much. But if they're trying to communicate another thing, it completely undercuts what they did last week, which I think it was a bad decision. So we can talk through what that is, or what that possibly is, when we get through the breakdown. So for me, I probably give it like a 6.5 out of 10. So that's my rating for this episode. All right. Any other thoughts?
I'm curious, Nathan, as to what has been your favorite episode though so far, Picard, since we already have 6 already.
Probably the second episode.
Okay.
I liked what they did with the dystopian future. I know you some of you guys thought it was too dark, but I appreciated what they did, and they did a whole lot of world building in an hour. They use that hour very efficiently. Whereas, as you said, for this episode, they're kind of stretching, right? They don't have much of anything for like 3 of the characters to do at all. So they're just basically standing around talking to each other, which, great that they want to work on their relationship, but this is an action show, so like work on their relationship through some sort of action, because they're just standing around talking. And they're trying to save the future. If they didn't have anything to, I feel like they really didn't have anything for some of these characters to do, but they wanted to bring these actors to the second season because they had them in the first season, and they wrote some of those characters out. Like they wrote Soji out, and they wrote Elnor out, and I feel like they should have figured out something else for them to do in the past, or left some of them in the future. If they couldn't figure out something for them to do in the past, because this is.
We should get into spoilers so we can have a fuller discussion.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts before we get into spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
That was it.
All right. Cool. All right. So, before we get into spoilers, though, if you are enjoying the conversation, please comment down below to join the conversation. Then we can. And also please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. We really appreciate it. And to get into it, let's get into it. So spoilers ahead. All right. So where do you guys want to start?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's deal with her revelation at the end of the episode. So if she is, so she's going through some pictures after her father comes back and he's deflated, and we'll get back to why he's deflated in a minute because it's not really important to her discovery. She starts to go through his computer, which is sort of weird because I can't imagine, like, she's a teenager. This is the first time she's gone through his computer, but whatever. And she finds all this evidence that of pictures and things that she doesn't remember, and they're like pictures of her. So if they are saying that she is just one of his experiments and he's just trying to perfect an experiment, they just made him another evil Sung, which, you know, they've done before. Like, they make almost all of them evil for some reason. Mm-hmm. If they are saying that he actually had a daughter that he conceived with a woman, and she had this rare disease and she died, and then he tried to clone her several times, even though she died the first time, to try to save her eventually. It kind of it makes him crazy, but it doesn't strip away all his sympathy. But so that's why I'm saying I'm of two minds about it. He's either a mad scientist, or he's a little bit less sympathetic father who's a little crazy that he cloned his daughter like 12 times, his original daughter like 12 times. But if he cloned an original daughter that was actually his daughter, as opposed to her being an experiment, then it doesn't strip away all his sympathy. So I don't know what they're trying to say here if there was an original daughter. So that's.
I mean, she's still an experiment, though. Like, regardless of
like I said, it doesn't make him as sympathetic as last week. No, he was far more sympathetic last week. I don't understand why they did this at all. So because they don't have to make all the Soongs evil, but like it makes him more sympathetic if he was, like the loss of his original daughter kind of like made him go a little mad, and then he spent the rest of his life trying to save her, even though the original one is dead. Like I said, it still makes him crazy. It still makes him wrong, but it makes him less wrong than her being a complete just experiment that he's just trying to figure out. So I don't know what they're going to say that he actually is, or what she actually is at the end. I mean, did you get a sense from the scene which way they were tipping there?
I don't really know what they were trying to do here. I actually felt that it distracted us from the main plot. This subplot was really, in some ways, to me, really ridiculous. And also, the thing is that it's very similar to the plot of Dodge and Soji in season 1, where they were just like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Why do I have all these memories? Like, the part where she was looking through was like, I don't remember this. This is like they were showing, she was showing videos of her being of the daughter being a child and stuff like that, like birthdays and celebrations, spending time with Sung and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait a second, this is very much like season 1. Why are they using the character, the very similar character, in a similar way, doing what they did in season 1? What a waste of my time if that's going to be the case.
I mean, they might be trying to say that there were the past reverberates in the future, and these things happen over, which is I guess it's something to say, but it's not. But
and it's a very long family history of sort of pushing.
But
the limit.
Yeah, but they've made that point before. Like every time you see a Soong, the Soong that's going to show up in Archer's time is also kind of like pushing the boundaries. All the Soongs kind of push the boundaries. They they didn't need to strip away his sympathy that much. Like if I think it was an additional complication that they didn't need to add to the plot that was already sort of complicated. They're already doing a lot of things. If he was just a father who was trying to save his daughter, even him running over Picard in like desperation, this episode would have been fine, because he was trying to save.
I don't think it stripped away his sympathy. I mean, we still don't know what her origin. Like, there's another human involved somewhere in her making, right? We don't know what that connection is, but I would think that he has wanted to keep her alive because he does have a deep connection and a love for her, and and it doesn't. I guess I don't think it matters. If he was married, if there was an actual child, right, or if there was a woman that he wanted to have a child with, and they never did, and
now
he
you're adding
said
things that
about
make
doing
me
that
dislike him even more.
by
I didn't even think
himself.
about like a woman that he saw from across the room. He took her DNA and decided.
Well, no, like a woman. He cared about, but at the end of the day, I think the ethics of he's still by bringing this. Because she's a clone, right? And continuing to regenerate this clone where he knows the technology isn't worked out. She has essentially never left their home, their compound, right? How she came to be, to me, is, it's problematic, but even the way he's raising her is problematic. Like, she has no idea. He's fabricated a whole life for her. And
I'm confused.
I don't think it makes him less of a father, right? Or lessens his love for her.
Yeah.
It's still obviously still unbalanced because he's willing to kill to keep her, to get what he thinks from Q is a cure for her. And I think it's telling. What I thought was really interesting is, like, you don't see Q in this episode at all.
No.
He seems completely powerless, and he is having to work through people with a lot of means to play out whatever his plan is. So it didn't make him. It sort of. You see the Picard line, right? Because they're trying to make Renee Picard, or ensure that she still goes on this mission. And so you're sort of like getting two different family histories, and they're sort of very much, both Picard and Sung are very much in line with, I guess, that like their family history, their characteristics. Like, neither has really strayed far from who they were born to be, essentially. So I thought that's like an interesting comparison. But I still feel bad for him, but he seems to be like really. I think he's realizing within himself the lengths he will go to keep her alive. Because she's made it to adulthood almost, right? So she's lived longer than any, from the videos that she saw. She's lived longer than any of the other clones. So he's like right on the cusp of having whatever this dream is that he has, and it's slipping away from him.
I do want to make one more point, is that I think that the writers and the creators of the show could convince me that this is a kind of like what Condor say, is kind of like progression as we see the progression of what Picard has become, through Renee Picard, and now, throughout the lines of great explorers and stuff like that, and to where Jean-Luc is, when he's captain of the Enterprise and all that stuff. And there's a parallel to that with Sung as this progression of this type of experimentation that he's doing, genetics, in the year 2024, all the way through Enterprise, all the way to TNG, with the creation of lore and data. Yeah, okay. If you're convinced me that there's a kind of this line of progression of then the culmination of all of those centuries of research or questionable research is going to be tied to the creation of data and lore, okay, then I can get that. But it doesn't seem as though it's it's not very clear cut, and you need to kind of, as an audience member and as a fan, kind of try to piece that together in order for it to make sense. And we shouldn't have to do that. As a fan, you shouldn't have to do it. You could just see the writer's job to kind of do that, and the creators to do that, so that, oh yeah, it makes complete sense. It's kind of like what you're saying, Nathan, about the discrepancies of the timeline and the inconsistencies when you saw it the last time with Guinan and stuff. It's the same thing, and it's like, why they're not doing it in a way where it's like, okay, it's logical and progression of things going on, and it's like just like this bits and pieces. It's convoluted, it's like confusing, and it's like, why does this make sense within the larger context and all that? So but if you can convince me that there's some type of progression, okay, I'll buy it. And as a fan, I'll say that that's very fascinating. But the way that they're doing it right now, I don't seem to get it very much.
Yeah, they're not. They're not necessarily connecting the dots. If that's what they're trying to communicate, they're not connecting the dots. And
Right.
and you know, I understand. I appreciate giving your audience the benefit of the doubt and not talking down to them and not treating them like they're stupid. But like, and there's clever writing where you appreciate the intelligence for your audience, and there's just like dropping the ball altogether and just hoping that your audience will pick it up and like do fan fiction in their head to connect the dots.
Right.
And I'm not saying that they're completely there, but they're almost there. Like where the audience is kind of having to do some fan fiction in their head to connect some of the dots to say, oh, is this what they mean because of this, or is it? And yeah, if that's what they're if what you just now said is what they're trying to do, sure, but then they need to connect those dots.
Right.
Condre, you said that you didn't lose any sympathy for Soong, but in saying,
I mean, I
saying that
I think
you
he's
listen.
batshit crazy either way, right? Like he is even from because he's been banned. Like he does whatever he wants to do. Like his ethics are questionable, regardless. I don't know that like the source, like whoever her mother is, really matters, right? Like he wanted a child. He's done a lot to have this child.
Right. Yeah, but so the reason. So you said he didn't lose sympathy, but you also listed a bunch of reasons why he's more problematic because of the thing that they did in this episode, which is why I was kind of
but he was problematic from the previous episode, is what I'm saying.
He was less problematic though. For me, he was less problematic. Though I don't think the who the mother is what adds the problems in this episode. I even if he stole DNA from a woman, sure, that makes him even more problematic. But that wasn't what I was assuming from what she saw. I was assuming that either she's just an experiment to him, and he might love her in the way that you really wanted the experiment to be successful, but it's possible that he doesn't love her in the way that you would actually love a daughter. Also, unless he has a massive facility where he was keeping all of them separate, he's force grown this one, so she's only been alive for a very short period of time. So
I think he started when he was young because his age is very different in the photos.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the impression that there's like a batch of clones. I think he's doing it sequentially.
Well, maybe
right.
that.
But what I'm saying is that he would have had to. When you say he started when he was young, yes, I saw that. You saw the picture that when the original one, he's a young man, but I mean, he's not like 100 years old now, so it would have been just basically her lifespan if she had a regular lifespan, but. Unless he had them separated, I think this one is only a few years old or a couple years old, and he accelerated her growth, similar to how Soji is only a couple years old.
Yeah, that I didn't get. I got because the others didn't. They either died in infancy or they died in toddlerhood, right? And if he's getting a surrogate, I don't think they're forced. Like I don't think their aging has been accelerated per se.
Or maybe this is my thought, that every time Core looked back at her previous lives in a way, my guess is that maybe before like the verge of each clone that in the verge of dying, he must have Soong must have grabbed a piece of that DNA of that person and create another clone and perfected whatever way from the last one. And then that's when one probably aging. So maybe it's just that the same clone is aging, but grabs pieces of that same clone into the next one, and as it ages progressive. So hence, as you said, Core is the 12th clone experiment. Yeah. So she could be the one, as Sung says, but this one lasted longer, maybe, from the last slice, I guess, from DNA from the last one, I think. So, I mean, the thing is with this part is it didn't fully explain the backstory. Like, one, as Condra said, we don't know there's a mom there, or he walk across the room and grab a DNA from another woman. I don't know, but yeah. But the thing is that they didn't really explain it thoroughly enough. But it just only, which is one of the things I unexpected, is that found out that Core is a clone. So, I mean, the writers should have thought thoroughly about like where or how it all started. The whole cloning process happened. I mean, they give hints about it from looking back the videos, but not enough to know, like, does she have a mom? Or is like a splice of DNA from Sung himself, maybe? So, I mean...
Yeah. So
I also want to say one more thing about this, is that again, they're not thinking things through. Just like, and then we have to develop all, like what you said, Nathan, we have to develop this kind of like theory and fan fiction. I love what David's saying, is that, oh yeah, it might be taken from one piece to another. That's great writing.
That's interesting, yes, but I would...
Yeah, that's an interesting angle to go to, but it's like, we have to think about it, and it's like weird that we have to do that.
And what Condra said is also interesting. I mean, I don't know if my thought that she's forced a grown is interesting as well, but it's possible. All of these are possible, and they just dumped a pile of crap basically for us to figure out. That's my main point. You know, any one of what David said, what Condra said, what I said, any one of those things could be true. I don't know why they added this extra complication so that now we have to guess.
No, but also I just think that they wanted Brent Spiner in the thing, and it's like, yeah, Data's dead. We just, you know, they had to kill off Data. But then what happened was that, oh, well, what are we going to do with Brent Spiner? Brent Spiner wants a job. Issa Briona, same thing. Oh, what are we going to do with her?
Right,
it's
that's
like that gets to other things that we're going to talk about, you know, with the gala and stuff. What you were talking in the non-spoiler part, where certain characters are sidelined, like 7 of 9, for example.
And Rafi, to an extent as well, she has a short conversation with Rios, but like she doesn't really do anything in this episode either. And as I said in the last week, their whole side mission was for nothing, because Picard was the one who found the Watcher. Like, I don't understand anything that they've done since they went back in time that actually has contributed to the mission. They're just there. It sucks for the actors.
If Rios hadn't met a doctor, then Picard would be
sure. Except for the fact that they haven't. If Rios hadn't met the doctor, he wouldn't be what?
Like Picard would just be like dead in the street.
That's true.
So, no. That's the other thing. Like they established if they didn't establish in the third episode that the biobed could have kept Elnor alive, it was alive. If Elnor alive, if the power was on, and now the power is on, them going to a doctor from the 2020 first century instead of going to the biobed, which was created in the 24th century. I don't care how good a doctor she is. She's not better than the medical advances that we made over 400 years. That's ridiculous.
But he's also not human, right?
He's also not human. He's also not human. He's also not human.
He just needed a jump start.
Exactly. So like, he's also not human. So like
a robot.
I understand all his biological parts sort of mimic human things, but like they even tried to hint at it when she tried to jump his heart and it blew up her machine. But like, I going to the doctor, like I like that. I feel like the way that I'm talking is like I'm saying these people have no uses. Like I like Jeri Ryan. I like the actress who plays Rafi. I like the doctor.
Yes.
They have convoluted reasons for them to be there. They're basically there was no reason to go to the doctor. Rafi and Seven were just standing around for the entire episode, sort of working on their relationship, or sort of like I don't even know if they talked. Like they commented, Rios talked about Seven and said that she's like lighter now because of her, she doesn't have her Borg implants, which I don't, again, is a little unclear to me because, okay, was she acting weird or she acting reserved around humans because of the physical things, or are they saying because she literally doesn't have her cortical implant anymore, it's changing her behavior? Because that's not clear, because they're not spending any time on it, because they're not spending any time on them. So,
well, I took it to mean like she just looks normal, right? And where she comes from, people automatically see that she is not normal. Like and if they know more about her, they know that she used to be part of the Borg collective, and so there's that immediate just like
sure, but we
that creates that distance.
But we know more about her than that. We know that she also has a cortical implant in her brain which actually changes the way that she processes information. That's why if she had it, they wouldn't have needed the Borg Queen. So are they saying that she's not just acting more normal around humans because she doesn't have the physical things on her face, so people aren't reacting to her so people are reacting to her differently so that she can react differently? Or is she reacting differently because of not just the way that people are reacting to her, but because her brain is different? And it's unclear because, like I said, they're spending no time on them. They're spending no time on them.
It could be both, though. Like those aren't.
It could be both. Right? It could be both. But like again, they're making us fill in the blanks, though. They're making us fill in the blanks. It could be both.
And that's the huge problem, is that they're making us fill in the blanks. And going back to Rios, you know that he has Love Jones. Okay, he wanted to see the Doctor again. Come on, that's just let's be honest here. You just want to see her again.
It's like a Terminator story, right?
Yeah.
Don't. I mean, and then I'm going to start ranting about Rios now too, because like.
I was ranting about him in episode. Was it episode?
No, 3? Because so you weren't here. You weren't here last week. I had to apologize for your ranting for saying that wait, let them because I think during that episode you were really annoyed with that storyline. I was like, just let it.
There you go.
Maybe it'll go somewhere. They completely dropped it last week, and then and then this week. He's like, oh, I love the 21st. You were just in ICE detention, and you love the 21st century? What? Because you met a girl? What? I was like, what was the point of the ICE thing?
I don't think he said he loved it. I think he is surprised by it, and I think again, it's like that difference between you read history and now you're experiencing it, and how vibrant.
Sorry.
Yeah. And just some like his fascination with like the matches and the like how, because it did make me realize like how sterile their environments in the future are, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like it's noisy, it's
I don't know. I feel like he could go to any part if he wanted something messier. He could visit Kronos or some. There are places in his time he could get messy. If you wanted to.
You have to go there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like just there around you.
Yeah. Yeah, but like to Colin's point from like episode 3, like if they're gonna do an ICE subplot, they should have done something with it. If they should have said something about it as opposed to just like ICE is bad, like they should have made a larger point about like the fact that they came from a future where people were exterminating aliens. I think we talked about this last week. Like people are exterminating aliens, and they went back in the past, and the humans are exterminating people that are aliens. Like they could have connected the dots. We were just talking about this earlier. They could have connected those dots and made that make sense and made that mean something. But like it was over last week. And this week he's happy because, like I said, a girl. So like
a girl who saves lives.
She again. I think he's she is wonderful. She is wonderful. So is Rafi. So is Seven. But they don't have much for them to do, and the reason that they went to her in the first place didn't make any sense because Picard is a robot from the 24th century that would have been better served on their ship. So,
I don't think they know that though, because if the biobed, I think that's the thing, right? Like, it was a.
Isn't the biobed?
If that's not the case, they should have written it into the plot. If they said that we don't know whether or not the biobed could handle his physiology, his physiology is closer to a human's. That's why we should go to a regular doctor. I know it's crude, but the biobed is not calibrated for his physiology because he's a half. They should have. It's a science fiction show. Just write a couple lines of dialogue so it makes sense. Because it doesn't really make sense for them to go to a 21st century doctor when they have 24th century medical technology on their ship. It doesn't.
Like I said, Love Jones. He has Love Jones. Jonesing for the doctor.
But the ship still isn't fully functional, right?
That's right.
The ship wasn't fully functional in the third episode, and then they got the power back. It was like the Borg Queen was draining all the power, and they got the power back. So the ship is fine now. So yeah, there are too many like plot holes. I don't know about plot holes. There's too many leaps that the audience has to have to make the story make sense, and also make the story what's the word I'm looking for?
Connect everything.
Connect, but also satisfying. Make the story satisfying. Make the story satisfying. So, like I said, it's not terrible. This is why I gave a specific number rating. So so you understand like the level of like. I'm going to say mediocre. The level of mediocre that it is in the level of middle of the road. It's not mediocre. It's the level of middle of the road that I think it is. I think that this is probably better than the last episode, in certain ways. But it's because I probably would have given that a 5. But because of Jurati stuff, which we haven't gotten to, we've been talking about the stuff that doesn't work. Jurati stuff works. The speech that Picard has with Renee really, really works, which brings up the entire episode. But the fact that they have 3 characters who do nothing is, I mean, we can talk about whether or not what they could be, what they could be doing might mean, or what they might be doing. But just watching the episode, they're not doing anything. They're just sitting around. Like, why did all 5 of them need to go into that party if they didn't have jobs? Like Rios.
I think this is it, right? They don't know what the mission really is. Like, they don't know if Renee, because there still seems to be some waffling. Like, should she still make the mission? Should she still, or should she not? Right? Like, you see the characters sort of wrestling with that, and I think they don't know, and they're just all there because. Something might pop off. You don't know, right?
Yeah, and
good. And then I think, and then Jurati like sort of did not really do her part because they lose communication. But no, I agree. Like, they're just there, but I think there's this like they still don't know. There's so much that they don't know about what exactly are they supposed to be preventing or ensuring something happens. And you see like the hesitation with Tallinn, who's like, well, maybe she's not supposed to make the mission, right? And Picard is like, well, maybe you don't want her. You're not ready to let her. Because when she goes on the mission, Tallinn presumably can't watch her the way she's watching her now.
Presumably, I assume that she has some sort of transportation off the planet. So.
Right, she's watching her therapist sessions. Like, maybe there's a bug or something in the camera in Europa that we don't know about.
I'm going to assume that she can hack into the communication between NASA and the shuttle. Yeah. But I even beyond that, I assume she has some sort of transportation off the planet when she's done with her mission or whatever, or maybe even to shadow the ship all the way to Europa, because she's supposed to shadow the person, so maybe she's supposed to continue shadowing her. So I don't know, but yeah, they should have spent some more time on that, because like you said, it's unclear whether or not Q went back in time and caused this problem, or if this is the problem that he's trying to cause, or if this is a misdirect on Q's part. Like, and they should have spent some more time on that, and they didn't. I don't know. This is they're more than halfway through the season. They're more than halfway through the season. So like this. We still don't know. So sorry, David. What did you say?
We're about 4 episodes. We're 4 episodes left, so we're about a little past the half point.
Yeah.
So I think we'll reach the climax, and hopefully the writers will fill in will answer all the questions we have been ever since this episode and ever since episode 3 and stuff like that.
I don't know.
And I swear to God, agree with me on this. And I swear to God, I hope, and I think Colin would agree with me on this. And I hope that they won't pull the Terminator storyline with Rio. So I'm like, oh God, please.
Oh, you mean leave him back in time? Leave him back in time? I don't know. So like,
Kyle Reese.
I'm thinking of this.
I mean, he can smoke real cigars, so.
I don't know. You want to stay back in the 21st century because of a woman?
That's his son.
I don't.
I mean, men have done pretty stupid things.
I don't know. He's a captain in Starfleet. He can go anywhere in the galaxy, not the universe at this point because they're like in the 21st century. But like he can go anywhere in almost anywhere in the galaxy because again, I guess the Delta Quadrant is far away, but. His options are a lot larger in the 24th century than they are in the 21st century. But whatever. If they leave him back in time,
love. Can't control that.
Simple man with simple needs.
Love is love.
Maybe. I don't know.
The thing is that he knows that it's wrong, but he can't help it.
Maybe
So,
love conquers all, or love is strongest.
Exactly.
Forbidden love.
Unless where Doc brought the girl from the past into the future. Unless Rio's can pull that shit off, which I doubt. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. They're not
gonna
do
that. Take
her
kid too.
Yeah,
and you're messing up the timeline. So yeah. He has to be like T'Pol. He has to be like T'Pol in Enterprise if he's gonna be on the planet for a long period of time, make as little waves as possible, live a very simple life. I'm not sure how many of you guys have watched all the Enterprise episodes, but she was like stranded on Earth for like several, like almost 100 years, and she just had to. She had to blend in. It was her or her grandmother, I forget.
It
was a grandmother. Yeah, her grandmother was like stranded on Earth. Her grandmother looked exactly like the other actress, the actress T'Pol. So like she was stranded on Earth for like 100 years, and they just had to blend in. That's if they leave him behind, that's what he's going to have to do. But I don't know if that's a good plot development. I feel we haven't even talked about Jurati and the Borg Queen, but like at this point in the season, I feel like that meme online. Of like Thanos in Endgame, where he's looking at what's it? It's not Gamora. Who's the other daughter? Nebula. And he said maybe I was too harsh on you, daughter. It's like maybe I was too harsh on Discovery season 3 because at this point, Discovery season 3 is a lot better than this season. Because I was maybe a little too nitpicky about that season in Conjure. We still need to do a whole season wrap thing of Discovery season 3. It was a lot better thought out than what we're getting with Picard right now. Even if they stick the landing, there's a lot of unevenness in this season, and it's like unclear where they're going or what they're doing in this season. And I didn't have nearly as many issues with Discovery season 4 than I do with this, even though I had like nitpicks here or there about like Book and Tarka and stuff like that. But like, yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about Jurati in the Borg Queen. Yes. What do you guys think about that?
Very fascinating. I just think that the whole the Borg Queen in her head reminds me a lot of Batman Joker. David, I know that you're a Batman fan, so like it reminded me a lot about that from Arkham Asylum. I think even in Dark Knight Returns, that happened as well, and it's like almost like this voice, like no one knows that she's there, but then it's like that voice that's always in her head, and I find that stuff always very fascinating. Like how does the person battle that? How does the person kind of block that out and say like shut the F up and all that type of stuff to that person, and people are like on the outside would be
weird.
like you're weird, like you're talking to yourself, what the heck's going on, that type of thing. So yeah, that was definitely very creepy, very scary, and you don't know what's going to happen with her moving forward, because it seems as though the queen is really putting all her tentacles into her head, and the assimilation process has already begun.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that I feel like that Johnny is halfway there to being assimilated by the Borg Queen. I mean, which explains the title of the name, which is, I think, as I told Nathan earlier before this, like the title of this episode is called Two of One. So my guess is that this is Jeri's so-called new name, Two of One, because there's two consciousness in one body. So, which makes sense. I think, why is it the title like that? I'm like, oh, okay, it makes sense. So Jeri has kind of have two names. Jeri, of course, Two of One, and possibly Borg Queen if she's fully assimilated, which led me to thinking about the Borg Queen in the mask in the first episode. People think it would be Picard's mom, but
maybe it's Jurati.
Could it be Jurati?
Ooh, that's a good one. Because
Jurati told the story of look up and everything. So I'm thinking like, why I think it's Jeri this time? That it would be the new Borg Queen in the mask. Not be Renee Picard, because it's still, because she doesn't know the whole look up speech until Picard showed up and tried to convince Renee Picard to get back on the mission and do it and everything. And a good speech about fear is a powerful tool for yourself. It's a matter of yourself.
Yeah, that was, as I said earlier, that was a really great speech. The fear speech about how, fear doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. It means that you understand the risk. So yeah, fear is just fear. It was a really good Picard speech, and it elevated the episode, because I would have definitely disliked the episode more. Also,
we have a comment from the YouTube stream. So basically agreeing with you guys that, the crew, Michael Strathmore, that the crew forgets that they have an expert cyberneticist from the Daystrom Institute who literally studied some androids with Bruce Maddox. But sure, take Picard to the 2024 doctor.
Well, so yes. I will say that at this point, Jurati's AWOL, so but no one even mentions like she would have been the best choice, but we don't. But yeah. She no one even mentions her as like the person who should probably work on him. They just say he needs a doctor. The bio shit won't work. Yeah, she would have been like the number one choice to fix the robot, right? The robot Picard.
But she was being assimilated though. She can't. She's not functioning. But she's like AWOL, like you said.
Didn't tell them
sure, but they don't even mention. They don't even mention her. They don't even mention her. Yeah. Like they don't even mention his. Like they only just joke about the fact that he's completely cyborg. Like when he's on the bed with the doctor, Rafi says. In response to the doctor, like as he had transplants, and she basically says all of them, and that was kind of like a reference. Yeah. And then we get the defibrillator blowing up again, a reference. But like, I feel like they could have, when they were all together, Jurati's name should have come up.
They all just fell apart.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. They all really just fell. I think they like literally did not know what to do.
These are all trained professionals. All of their brains
just short circuit.
These are all trained professionals here, though. Like they're like they're supposed to be like they're trained Starfleet professionals. They shouldn't fall apart in an emergency. Yeah. Emergencies happen to them all the time. So like.
Oh, I agree.
Maybe they had inspiration from Star Trek 4. They look like a bunch of cadets in another timeline. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's really funny. So the other thing, what was the other thing we were talking about? The Jurati's combination with the Borg Queen. I think a lot of those scenes were really interesting because of the interplay, like the interplay between her and the Borg Queen. The it's, I don't even know. I think earlier in the season, I said the Borg Queens are sometimes like you don't know if they're going to kill you or they want to seduce you, and it's definitely that sort of relationship. She's definitely seducing Jurati, trying to get her to loosen up, and we find out that the reason that you're trying to get her to loosen up is because she wanted to take over her body. So there's definitely that seduction there.
Seduce you to kill you.
Yeah, seduce you to consume you, basically, to assimilate you. I think Alison Pill does a really great job here. She actually has a lot more to do this season than she had to do last season, but it might be at the expense of all the other people because, like I said, they don't have much to do. They don't. Rafi and Seven don't have much to do, and they aborted the storyline with Rios. Or they aborted most of it except for the love part, like the ice part. They aborted that storyline, but they're giving Jurati all the interesting things in this episode, and the actress can handle it, and also she apparently can sing because in the middle of this episode she starts like singing and spontaneously. There's a little bit there's some things that don't make sense about that scene, like if all the power went out, how did the spotlight work? But beyond that, it was a could little scene there, and she can sing very well, so I guess that was cool. And also she is.
Yeah, why would randomly like they would go, everyone will go to the stage. Oh, also. The band. Why would they randomly just start playing? How did they know? Give them a cue, like, oh, play this song and I'll sing this song. It's like, what gives?
I'll give you the band. Some suspension of disbelief.
Musicians,
yeah,
like people.
Yeah,
people just will do that. They will burst into song and people will chime in, and they're just that talented.
Yeah. If you get the right set,
and you feel I've seen it happen, and you feel like a lesser human being because you cannot participate in this like spontaneous, at least not well, right? Like people, so that didn't seem
right.
The spotlight thing was like, the power is out, so how is she lit up, right? Is there like some random human with a really bright cell phone in the audience, whatever? But,
the band chiming in didn't like Contra said, the band chiming in didn't bother me as much because they're just people that are that musically talented, like bands that get in a groove, and if they know the song, like someone like in a party, people will say, "Do you know this tune?" And someone who's a very good musician and say, "Yeah, I can start wherever you want to start. Do you want to start from here or here?" And bands can do that. Musicians can do that. And I think that's just like a Pat Benatar song. So like it's not like a song. It's a song that maybe they knew and they just came in.
Got it.
But the spotlight, seeing as how they cut the power for a distraction, made no sense whatsoever. Yeah. So
hey, it did increase the endorphins in the Borg Queen, so that she's like, oh, now I'm less stressed because of all of it. So that was actually pretty clever. I would have to give them props for that, actually.
Yeah. Do we have another comment from?
But how did Jurati not?
Do you have another comment from Michael there, or the from the either Facebook or YouTube?
Yeah. He's saying he thought nanopros were responsible for assimilating people. All this time, those people fighting for their lives are apparently releasing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised that she didn't know that there was a reason, like that she didn't know enough about the Borg to know that was a thing. And maybe I don't know, maybe it's something people didn't know about the Borg. But I was like, oh, okay. Because I don't ever recall them talking about the hormone levels, and also like hormones between species are going to differ.
Yes,
right.
Lots of different species.
Assimilate everybody.
But you can imagine. I guess you can, in that gap, say that they assimilated lots of different species, but she's assimilated human, so she knows the exact right mix. But yeah, this is new Borg lore that they're writing, but you do have the sort of the plot hole where we have this world-renowned or galaxy-renowned cyberneticist who doesn't know how the Borg work, where the Borg might be, one of the things that she definitely studied, especially if she studied like 21st century computing as like a hobby. I'm going to assume that she studied some Borg cybernetics, which is really actually related to her field as opposed to like this hobby that she also studied. So like, yeah, that's a little bit of a plot hole that she was the Borg Queen was so easily able to fool her. Again, given earlier a couple episodes ago, she was so smart that she fooled the Borg Queen. So
yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and maybe she just didn't read any of Janeway's Janeway's briefings or debriefings on the Borg. I guess maybe she didn't have the time to do it. She didn't get around to it. Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah.
Maybe, yeah. He also pointed out that the EMP didn't knock out Picard.
I don't think so. That doesn't bother me as much because he is the way that I don't think that an EMP would have necessarily knocked out Data either, and I think Data is closer to closer to a computer than Picard is. Picard is like a next generation cyborg that's so closely mimicked, so closely. Or sorry, next generation, not cyborg. Borg Queen is a cyborg. He's an android. Next generation android that all his organs kind of mimic human organs. So I don't think that an EMP necessarily. I think he's too sophisticated to be knocked out by an EMP because I think Data would have been too sophisticated to be knocked out by an EMP. So that doesn't bother me too much, but the spotlight does because it doesn't make any sense. So. Yeah,
it was very dramatic though. Yeah. I was like, wait, what is happening here? He's singing and singing well, very confident and comfortable.
It was she carried herself completely differently. Like the actress is doing the work, right? She's like she carries herself in a more hunched, like subdued way when she doesn't have the Borg Queen in her head, and now she's compensating for like the Borg Queen is sort of in control, and then the Borg Queen is completely in control. So the next episode, the Borg Queen will be completely in control. So she's going to have to do a third performance of the same character or the similar character. So we'll see how she. I mean, so far she's doing very well. The Alison Pill. So I'm interested to see how that works itself out in the next episode, because the next episode is probably going to be a split between Tallinn and Picard's head, because that's where we leave this episode. Picard is stable now, but he's in a coma, and they have to do another one of those episodes because there's quite a few episodes where people are in someone's head. I think they did two in DS9 where they went into Sloane's head from section 31. I think there was one where they went inside of Riker's head as well. I don't remember from TNG. So they've done these episodes, and some of them are better than others. So they could be a good episode, but they also have to, because it's a series. And they're telling a story, a larger story. They can't spend the entire episode on that. They're going to have to check in with the Borg Queen. They're going to have to check in with two of one. In the next episode as well.
Because now she's just wandering the city.
Yeah, she's going to be. Yeah. So, and those were really this episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes, and some of the shots that he got at this party with the guests were really beautiful. Her as the Borg Queen walking in the street with her dress, like those are the scenes that we had from the trailer that were just really evocative, and you were like, what is that? Why is she? What's this beautiful shot? So he got a lot of great shots in this episode. So I don't think my issue with this episode isn't the directing; it was the writing. So yeah,
yeah.
Any final thoughts? Did we miss anything? Did we talk about all the things?
We got all the things and all the feelings.
And all the things and all the feelings. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to
to resolve.
To sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they only have 4 episodes left. So yeah, this is my concern and my problem.
They might have to go some flashback episodes and stuff like that where they again deviate some more, and then we're going to be left with 2 episodes, and then we'll be like, they still haven't resolved anything yet because they just wasted another 2 episodes. So
yeah, because
then 9 and 10 is going to be there, and like, oh, they're going to really have to rush to get it done. But then basically at the end, it's like, oh, there's still some unresolved things. What the heck,
Yeah, because
that's how I kind of expect it.
Yeah, because as we just now said, the next episode is going to be sort of, we got to deal with the Borg Queen, not necessarily the reason we came back in time. Because I know she's on the shuttle, but it's unclear to me that she was supposed to get on the shuttle, whether or not she was supposed to get on the shuttle or she wasn't supposed to get on the shuttle, and they didn't deal with that. And they didn't deal with that in this episode. And the next episode is going to be dealing with the Borg Queen and also dealing with Picard's childhood issues, because I think that's probably what we're going to see when she goes into his head. So it's not going to be actually the main plot of the season.
Probably.
So yeah. And then,
but also,
and then
so Renee sees Picard get hit, and everybody's like, Admiral, right? And they're having this conversation in front of her that would not make sense
for a security guard. For a security guard,
for a security guard, right? Like, who are these guests who run over to this security guard
and say Admiral
and calling him Admiral, and then they whisk him away? Like, they don't get in an ambulance, right? They just like carry him off.
Yeah,
and so she's already, I mean, you were last thinking she was gonna go on the mission after Picard.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little weird. It's not even a little weird. It's a lot weird because she seems like a very empathetic and nice person. Like the guy who gave her this beautiful advice to to go on this mission. Would she really go into quarantine after seeing him get hit by a car? Like, she had a real connection with him, and I feel like she would want to find out whether or not he was okay before she went into quarantine. But then they toss off the line and say, well, she's in quarantine for the mission now. I don't think that person, given how sensitive she is going to go into quarantine until she figures out this guy who she had that connection with is okay. That makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Whatever.
Hey, it must have been a heck of a speech. I mean, like you said, Nathan, it was a heck of a pep talk. So I mean, it's a heck of a pep talk. So it probably just motivated her. It's like, yeah, you just don't worry about it. It's just some random mystery guy. Yeah, this random mystery guy just made a great pep talk to me. So I feel so inspired that I'm gonna go in quarantine and don't really care about him anymore.
Yeah,
she's gonna break out of quarantine to find out about her friend.
Yeah.
Risk the mission.
Yeah, it did make sense. But like that's not the top thing that didn't make sense in this episode. So it's just something that occurred to me just now. But obviously other things were more glaring. Yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts? Any other final thoughts? No.
I wouldn't say thoughts, but I have some theories.
Okay.
Because like for instance, in the beginning of the episode when Tallinn was talking to Picard, they talk about Laris.
Oh, you did. You remind me of something. Go ahead.
Picard said, I thought that maybe I thought you were an ancestor of someone I know, but then when she asked him about, and Tallinn asked her about Laris, say what's she like, who is she, and everything. And then there was a moment when she saw something on her, not tricorder, something like a scanner or something like that. She said something in Romulan.
Yes. It makes no sense.
I caught that.
So there's something else going on there. Like he's like, you can't be a ancestor of her because she's Romulan. And then she starts speaking in Romulan. She says a curse in Romulan. Or an exclamation in Romulan. Like, what's going on here? That makes they put that in there specifically. And that stuff could be interesting if they didn't have all this other mess over here. Like that was like, oh, maybe she isn't who she says she is, or maybe
wait a minute. You're telling me that she might be watching Picard as a Romulan?
Maybe, or she's not a Romulan. Maybe that's just prosthetics. We know that the Federation goes to other planets and they just they changed their appearance through prosthetics. Maybe she's not a Romulan. Maybe she's a Watcher in the future as well. Like maybe she's just following a different Picard in the future. But that wouldn't really explain why she's speaking Romulan so far in the past. So maybe she's a Romulan and she just changed her appearance to look like a human. But why would a Romulan care? Why would a Romulan care about a human? So like it's all kinds of confusing.
Tal Shiar, they're back.
Yeah,
for the revenge. Tal Shiar.
At this point in like human history, this is like a backwater world that's never gonna that the Romulans wouldn't care about. So yeah, I don't know why Romulan would be on this planet or why she would be cursing in Romulan. It doesn't quite make sense, so they have to make that make sense. They obviously put it in there on purpose because if you read the subtitles, it says she says something in Romulan. So
yeah,
that's another thing that they have to explain in four episodes. Even though they're gonna spend all of the next episode with him. Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll explain it in the next episode when she's in his head. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
And then there's another theory, like way back there. Like, we saw the Queen, but then we're wondering, back in the first episode, why is there a different Borg Queen in an armor dress, tentacle-like thing, with a mask? And I was like wondering, first people thought it would be Picard's mom, but then later on thinking, would it be Jurati? Because she fused, because she was assimilated by the Borg Queen, and we've seen what Borg Queens look like. So could the mask Borg Queen could be Jurati, like 100 years or whatever the heck in the future, or could be another relative? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. There are a bunch of questions from the beginning of the season that we haven't answered yet because we haven't seen Q that much. And then they're adding new questions with Polaris / Tallinn / the Watcher that they haven't answered yet either. And then there's an extra complication with Jurati as the two of one. There's some weird stuff happening with Rios and this doctor that they have to resolve. Luckily, or I don't know if luckily is the right word, they don't really have to resolve much of anything between Seven and Rafi because they haven't had anything to do the entire season, except for the fact that Rafi keeps hallucinating Elnor. She saw him again in this episode. So she's having some issues there, but like they haven't fleshed that out. Just like they haven't fleshed out why Seven is acting the way she is, if it's just her physical appearance or if it's the cortical implant. They haven't fleshed out Rafi's feelings. She's just angry all the time. Seven mentions 2 episodes ago her son's name and Elnor's name, and they could have delved more into that. How her feelings about Elnor are complicated by her failures or her perceived failures or her actual failures, because her son doesn't want anything to do with her from the last season. Her actual failures with her son, how her like she feels like she failed Elnor, that would have been a great piece of dialogue. That even though they've had them milling around for the last several episodes, I would have liked to connect with that character on an emotional level with that deeper exploration of that character. But they don't do it. We don't know. She's just angry all the time. That's how they don't talk about it. They just have her as angry. So they're wasting the actor.
But she's soft. She's much softer when she talks about Seven, right? So you see that that I don't know, like that duality in her character. Like Seven clearly brings her joy and happiness, and she's still hopeful. I don't know if you saw the trailer.
Yeah, I saw the trailer, and I thought it was funny because like what I thought was funny about that trailer was like she's like, well, we're the main event. I was like, you haven't been the main event for this entire season. I don't know how your relationship is the main event, and like Rios and Jurati's relationship is the side thing. It's like. It was just funny to me. It's just funny to me, given what they've given them. They're not the main event. They're just like the people that they have standing off to the side. But whatever. She definitely does have a more tender relationship with Seven, and all that stuff is fine. And when I was commenting about on our spoiler free conversation, I had that in my mind that they've been basically just working on their relationship, but this isn't a drama and it's an action show. If they want to work on their relationship, it has to be through some sort of action, some sort of experience that they're having together, and then and that helps them explore their relationship. So like, or even if they don't do that, just have actual conversations about what's happening. Like some action did happen. Elnor died. She has a fraught relationship with her son. Have that conversation instead of just having her stomp around angry. Have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So
I wonder. I mean, because it looks like in the next episode, Seven and Rafi are the ones looking for Jurati.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's where you sort of see a split because Rios, presumably Rios.
It's going to stay at the clinic.
Yeah. Rios is back at the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll have to contend with those two, hopefully just those two plot lines, because that's still a lot, I think, to deal with.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Because we got a lot of, when they were traveling together, right, they touched on these things, they didn't go deep, but now maybe with them being alone again and having to figure out, or find Jurati and figure out, because Seven, obviously, if people had seen the trailer, she realizes that the code is Borg.
Yeah, it's Borg. So, yeah, on the ship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to pretty quickly figure out that Jurati is compromised.
Yeah, they go to the ship specifically in the scene from next week. They go to the ship to try to find her, but to try to track her down, and they're locked out because of the Queen. So yeah, even though she didn't have complete access or complete control of Jurati, she had enough control that she was able to surreptitiously, I can't get the word out. Change the coding or the surreptitiously change the code on the ship, so that she locked other people out, and she was able to do that without Jurati finding out. So she had some level of control that was subconscious, that Jurati wasn't, because that's not something Jurati would have allowed her to do if she knew that she was doing it. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. We shall see where the season goes now that we have 4 episodes left. They have a lot of dots to connect. They have a lot of loose ends that they need to tie up. I don't know, a third metaphor. It's like, I'm just saying. But we will see where we go in the next couple episodes. Hopefully they can land it properly. There's a third metaphor. Hopefully they can land it properly in the next couple episodes, and we'll see. All right. If there's nothing else, we invite you to join the conversation by commenting down below. And we will be back here next week to talk about the next episode. And thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe to get more content like this. And we will see you next time. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.